And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. Once again, we are on a special time this Sunday afternoon, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, instead of our usual 7 to 9, due to some big game that obviously everyone will probably be watching, or most people will be watching, so we certainly don't want to try and compete, and so we won't compete. And we are, as always, doing a Hoopsville on a Sunday. Earlier on Sunday, though, I think last year we may have even done it on a Monday instead. But we appreciate you joining us in. I am Dave McHugh, your host, broadcasting out of our studios here in the Baltimore area. We appreciate all of you joining us here as we get ready to really talk about the last month of the season, believe it or not. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, everybody who supported us on Thursday. It was a crazy show, 12 hours, 38 minutes or some odd. We appreciate all the support we got from all of you. Certainly we had plenty of guests to thank, 40 of them to be exact. Believe it or not, if you want to catch any of it, you can. The archive is available for you to enjoy. We certainly, the gamut of guests, and we didn't even get to everybody we wanted to talk to. We have a nice long list of guests we want to talk to now. Some of you, or if your donation to the Hoopsville fundraising project will allow us to also talk to other guests, and so we will work on that. I have a whiteboard that still has the entire list of every single coach that we have. I'll probably take a picture to remember it in posterity. What we'll do is then erase that and list everybody who has donated, who has the ability to have us have a guest on, and then we will then mark off who we have had. We had a couple on Thursday, if you remember. We will start as of this Thursday, we hope, knock on wood, to start getting other guests on the show. Lots of donations. We have met our goal. If you missed the end of the show, we hit our goal. We now still have a week left in the Hoopsville fundraising project, and we certainly hope you will take the time to maybe consider donating if you have not. There have been a few conferences out there who have certainly stepped up, and we thank them. The Heartland men's basketball coaches combined to make a nice donation. The UAA men's basketball coaches have combined to make a donation. Nearly all of them are in. The new MAC coaches, I believe, on the men's side have decided to donate as well. We appreciate all their efforts. There's also individual coaches out there who have donated, and we certainly appreciate that as well. So lots of ways lots of people have stepped up. We appreciate it. Our goal being met is a couple-fold in terms of us. We thank everybody for donating. It tells us that the goal we met was achievable and that you do care for us to upgrade our technology and our facilities and all that stuff and travel more with the show. We will certainly do so as according to that. Also, it means our fees are cut in half. We get to keep more of the money that you have donated. So that is a significant step. We still lose a little bit of money in the fees. So really, if we raise another $500, we probably would at least get the original goal. But if we can continue to raise for another 7-8 days on the campaign, we certainly appreciate any thoughts you can do, even if it's as little as $10. 100 people at $10 is still a good chunk of change. So we appreciate if you would consider that, or at least share it with those who may be interested. Lots to talk about on the show. We're going to talk to a number of great guests today. At the same time, we're going to tackle a lot of the topics at hand. It's been a bit of a busy weekend, to say the least. And the big thing is that tomorrow we got a big game looming in the top 10 if it gets played. We'll certainly cover that as well. But one of the big stories this weekend was the Colby Mules men's basketball team that's 11-8 now, 3-4. They entered the weekend 9-8 and 1-4 in NESCAC play. They defeated number 3 Amherst and they defeated Trinity, Connecticut in a thrilling overtime game. We'll talk to their men's basketball coach Damian Strayhorn about the weekend, especially, and of course how his teams are doing, what he thinks of the NESCAC. But certainly big games there for Colby. They're making their names known to be sure. Eastern Mennonite women's basketball clicking along, 15-4 overall, 9-1 in the ODAC. We'll talk to their coach Kevin Griffin about the Eastern Mennonite team, the EMU team. Certainly playing very good basketball in a very challenging ODAC. Morrisville State men's basketball coach. Remember Joe Smith and his team making a great run to the Sweet 16 last year? Certainly making everybody kind of call them their Cinderella. They struggled at the beginning of this season, but they're surging now. 11-6 overall, 8-3 in the NEAC. We'll talk to him about the chances of getting back to the into the NCAA tournament after a rough start to the season. Number 10 team in the country, probably one of those quiet, unsung teams right now. Wisconsin-Whitewater, 17-3 overall, all 3 losses in the WIAC, where they also have 8 wins. Coach Pat Miller will talk about his Warhawks, talk about trying to keep up with Stevens Point this season, and of course how he sees the rest of the WIAC shaping out, and if he thinks he's in a good position to make the NCAA tournament, should they not win the conference tournament. Staten Island men's basketball coach Tony Petosa will join us. The Dolphins playing very good basketball, though off the radar. 17-2 overall, 11-0 in the CUNYAC. We'll talk to him about what this team needs to do to maybe garner a little bit more respect. And then MacMurry basketball, they are on top of the SLIAC, 14-4 overall, 10-1 in the conference. Coach Todd Creel will join us. There's one of those teams that make the tournament, you have to win the conference tournament. And we'll talk to him about how a good season can come down to just one game. That's all ahead here on Hoopsville. Certainly you can interact with us on Twitter and on Facebook. Let's see, Hoopsville's on the air right now. We're writing that as we speak. Sorry, couldn't think at the same time, as it were. Used up a lot of those juices on oh shoot. I'll get back to that. Used all those juices on Thursday. Basically, we have a month left in the season, so interact with us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can also interact with us on email, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Lots to talk about. Number 2, Cabrini barely held on. Had to rally from a 10-point deficit to Rosemont, 75-74, not playing with their leading player, Aaron Walton Moss. Of course, they have Monday, number 9, Wesley, on their court. Of course, the rankings could change by the time we see them. I think the biggest note of that would be the fact that the weather is once again rolling through the Mid-Atlantic. We're supposed to get a lot of snow here in the Mid-Atlantic, potentially 4 to 6 or more inches in the Philadelphia area. Will this postpone the game for a second time? And thus, will these teams be able to find a date that they can play it? Granted, Mondays are available, but as you get later and later in the season, you don't want to distract yourself too much from conference play, especially Wesley in a very difficult CAC. We'll see what happens if they get this game. I know they want to play this game. So we'll see what happens there. But Cabrini's still rolling along undefeated in the country, playing good basketball. By the way, WPI had a battle with Springfield, and you kind of knew it was coming. If you didn't know they were going to be battling with Springfield, you're forgetting completely what this conference is and who these teams are. Springfield had the lead with just seconds left, if I'm not mistaken. They also rallied from 10 down to beat Springfield. WPI did 71-70 for their 15th consecutive win. Nearly an upset there, though, against a really good Springfield team. Speaking of upsets, Albertus Magnus lost 74-55 to St. Joe's of Maine. Albertus Magnus is on that edge. That is a bad loss. And I don't mean because St. Joseph's isn't a good team. They've always been a tough team, seem to certainly have Albertus Magnus's number. But St. Joseph's, the loss in conference does not help Albertus Magnus. They need to put down as many wins as possible to look better and better to offset a weak SOS, and that is not a good loss for Albertus Magnus. That is going to be bad. The Monks of St. Joe's jumped out to a 27-9 lead, and it was all over from there. Of course, that is Albertus's first Division III loss, but as we all know in that conference, that is a bad loss. The NCAC continues to be crazy. Denison defeated Wittenberg. Wittenberg is just in a tailspin, it would appear. They lost 63-60. And then Oberlin beat DePaul, just as DePaul got back or into the conversation. They lose. Worcester was able to win, and Ohio Wesleyan was able to win, but NCAC is all over the place. Brockport State was on the ropes in overtime against Geneseo State, but luckily enough, Golden Eagles were able to win and to stay ranked. They'll stay ranked, obviously. Messiah had to rally again. against Albright, forcing overtime and then winning 90-87 in double overtime, I should say. Albright never trailed the entire regulation, but Messiah hit a couple key shots, including going the full distance of the court with 3.1 seconds, and Fernandez hitting a layup to force overtime in the first place. So lots going on. Scranton defeating Juniata. Juniata struggling at this point in time. Just to say the least. That's their fourth home loss. I don't remember the last time that's happened. On women's side, Christopher Newport defeated York, giving York their first loss of the season. Of course, that was an overtime game against two top 20 teams. St. Mary's of Minnesota started off with a good win as well. They beat Concordia Moorhead 72-69 to stay in the lead of the MIAC. It's them and St. Thomas, if you'll remember. Amherst defeated Bowdoin. Bowdoin had a bad weekend with the Amherst teams. Both Amherst teams beat the Bowdoin teams. All of those teams ranked. DePaul barely survived, winning 67-62 over Oberlin. Oberlin. Hope trounced Calvin in the rivalry game. That's 2 times they've trounced them. Scranton women had to recover after losing to Moravian and beat Juniata. By the way, congratulations to Moravian's head coach. Another milestone for her. We'll talk about that in the future. Johns Hopkins started off 10-0. And Nancy Funk will probably never appear on Hoopsville ever again. Since in conference, they started off 10-0, I should say. Since then, they have lost 3 straight in conference action. They lost 44-40 this time to Haverford. They had lost to McDaniel the week before, earlier in the week, and so now 3 straight losses for Johns Hopkins. Nancy Funk most likely will never appear on Hoopsville again. Excuse me. So lots to talk about, and we have plenty more to talk about here on the show. If you'd like to join us, don't forget on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Don't forget also on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, and of course on email, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Going to take a break. When we come back, talk to one of the headliners of the weekend, the Colby Mules. Not only do they get the win over number 3 Amherst, they followed up with a big win over Trinity in overtime. We'll talk to them about the significance of those wins and what that means for the rest of the year. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back right after this.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things, not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Yes, Salem, Virginia, the road to Salem, not that far away at this point of starting. Of course, we have one last week of basketball in both men and women. Women, the road will be Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Men, once again, Salem, Virginia. Of course, Hoopsville will be on the road to Salem, Virginia for the men's championship weekend, as we have been every year since 2001. We are looking forward to it once again. May even be on the road one other time to Salem. We will finalize those details most likely in the next week, and certainly look forward to seeing what we can do with that. But, keep abreast of us and our news and anything else we may be doing on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville. Of course, email hoopsville at d3hoops.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Also, a reminder, the Hoopsville fundraising project continues. We have met our goal, but we still have a week left in the campaign. You can donate up and through, I think it's like midnight Pacific time on February 9th. Any of the money that you guys are so kind to donate will be used to improve the show, help us travel to other destinations. We have grand plans to maybe visit a few places next year, to be sure. We'll work on those details in the off-season, obviously. Upgrades to equipment, like the new computer that we have gotten our hands on and other things like that. So we appreciate all the donations that have come in so far. We certainly encourage you, if you'd like to donate more, not you specifically if you have, but others out there who may have. And of course, you can find more information on our Twitter and on our Facebook page, and of course on d3hoops.com as well. One of the stories making headlines this weekend was the Colby Mules in men's basketball having a terrific weekend, as it were. Nothing to shake a stick at when you beat the number 3 team in the country, and then you respond back by beating Trinity, of course, Connecticut, in, of course, a thrilling game, to say the least. And, of course, apparently that's my word today. We'll go to the Hoopsville hotline, and joining us from the Northeast region in the Colby Mules is head coach Damian Strayhorn. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Dave, thanks so much. Excited to be on.
Oh, I'm glad you could join us. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. First and foremost, I think you were probably going to make the show no matter what happened yesterday by defeating number 3 Amherst. That's got to be one of those signature wins for a season, and maybe a couple that you can certainly ride out.
Definitely. Now, it was a very exciting weekend up here in Waterville, and obviously Friday night. Great opportunity to take on a terrific Amherst team, and obviously number 3 in the country coming in here, and just I thought a very well played game. We were able to battle through and pull out very much, I think, a signature win for this season, and certainly as we continue to try and build the program. I think a win that hopefully speaks to the progress and growth that our guys are making, and certainly being able to follow that up yesterday with just a wild win over Trinity. Really made the weekend special.
Of course, Friday night there were 3 top 25s all in trouble, but WashU and Williams all rallied from second half deficits to win. Amherst just couldn't do it against you guys, despite Aaron Toomey going 26 points, especially 5 for 11 from beyond the arc. What was the mentality going in defensively? Was it kind of let Toomey do what he does, but you got to shut down everybody else? Obviously, Patrick Stewart had a big night with 25 points and 5 threes on his own as well.
Well, Aaron is a terrific player, and coming off last season, National Player of the Year. As much as you try and focus on him, he still can get it going. And I thought we did a really good job on him in the first half. I thought he made some contested shots, and that's what good players do. Coming down the stretch, we really tightened up defensively. It was 60-60 with 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And, over the next 8 minutes, over 17 possessions, we got 15 stops. And really that kind of allowed us to open up a 10-point lead, getting it to 73-63. And, certainly the defensive effort there, fueled that rally and that run, and, forcing Toomey into, some tough misses, was really critical. But Amherst is such an explosive team scoring. I think the 4 perimeter guys can really make shots from all over the court. And as much as you try and focus in on Toomey, certainly again those other guys can get it going. So it was a huge defensive effort. I think as a group, and obviously as you touched upon, Patrick Stewart had a great night for us. Made some huge shots. We were able to kind of stretch the floor. He plays the 4 for us, and his ability to step out and make the 3 is something that we really try and utilize. And he had a terrific night, and especially coming down the stretch, helping us close that game out. So.
This is a team 7-17 last year, 7-17 the year before, and 1-9 in conference play. Back in 2011, you guys were 11-13. The year before that, it was 9-16. You guys sometimes pop up and appear every once in a while, but then struggle some other years. This year is another good one, 11-8. Of course, now 3-4 in conference play after the weekend. Is this the kind of momentum, especially after losing 5 of 7 in the middle of the season? Is this the kind of momentum that can help you finish off the season strong?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We took the program over. This is our 3rd year, and it's been a process. Certainly there's been some great Colby teams, over the years. Having a chance to take over for Coach Whitmore, who was a longtime coach here for 40 years, who I played for and had a chance to work for.
Right.
There's been so many successful teams here, and I think the 2010 team was kind of the last team that really made a good run in the NESCAC, and the 3 seasons after that were certainly down. And we had a chance to go out and bring our first recruiting class in last year. Certainly I thought it was a different team than the year before, with just 7 freshmen that came in, and really I think brought a improved overall talent level. And with that being said, certainly when you're playing young guys, it takes time. I thought we went through some lumps a year ago, but certainly got our guys some good experience, and coming into this season with those guys moving into their sophomore year, and a couple key players in the junior class, I felt like we had a real chance to take a huge positive step into this season. And certainly, it hasn't been consistent all the way through. I still think that's a mark of being a young team and trying to figure it out. But I certainly hope and think that this past weekend can definitely springboard us through into the final 2 weeks of the season. And the NESCAC is such a tough conference. Every night, I think any team can beat anybody. And, I think certainly, we saw that, by being able to take down Amherst Friday night, and then obviously, having to follow that up with a tough Trinity team coming in here the next day. And, we'll be at Middlebury next Friday, and then we'll wrap up the season at Tufts, at Bates the following weekend. So, for us, certainly looking forward to trying to finish strong and see where we stack up at the end of the season and going into the conference playoff. And, I know our work is cut out for us.
This is a team, you say young. I mean, there's 3 seniors on it, but they don't contribute in the sense of on the stat sheet. They don't jump out at you. It's a bunch of underclassmen that jump out. That's definitely got to be good, a good feeling for you. They have their ways of leading, but you've got a team in place for the future that's gelling at maybe the right time.
Definitely. No, our seniors, even despite sort of limited playing opportunities, just have been a huge presence for us. John Kalen's one of our seniors, who's one of our captains, and he does a great job in terms of just sort of setting the tone going back to the fall when our guys returned from their summer break, and Ben Bradford and Jesse Coulon, 2 other seniors that again just have had a great presence, through practice, coming to work every day, and really allowing those younger guys, I think, and helping mold those younger guys, and sort of with them having an opportunity to come in and play early in their careers. That senior leadership is huge, and certainly as we look forward through this season and into next year, I think that there's some real growth for us to continue to get better. A team that will return its core, certainly next year and even the year after, and we still have a ways to go. That's when you talk about trying to catch up to Amherst and Williams and Middlebury on a consistent basis. But it's a great challenge and opportunity to have.
When you look at your schedule filled with a lot of main teams, certainly understanding as Waterville's nearly dead center in the state, and of course a couple of non-Division IIIs as a result, Fort Kent, which by the way, smart of you to get them to travel down to you. I don't want that trip ever in my life. McHugh, of course, and others. Of course, then you also play your conference opponents, which gets you out of state. You also went to North Dartmouth, Massachusetts at the beginning of the year. You guys, is it just because of budget reasons you got to stay a little bit more home-centric? Are you looking to maybe go out a little bit further and get into New England a little bit more?
Yeah, one of the challenges, obviously, location certainly plays a part into it. Budget certainly plays a part into it. But the biggest thing is, the academic piece for us. And we actually, when we're in session, when we're in our semesters, we, can't play out of state during the middle of the week.
Yeah,
just
sure.
from a scheduling standpoint, and having to travel out of state and the time it takes to get down and play some.
Takes you, what, about 3 hours to 2.5 hours just to get out of the state?
Yeah, 3 hours down to Boston. So that kind of limits kind of what we can do. Obviously, looking to play those out-of-state teams and those tournaments, on the weekends and whatnot, just kind of from our restrictions and how our academic, schedule, balances out with our contest schedule. So, for us, I think, as we talk about building the program, certainly again some of those teams that you mentioned, Maine Fort Kent and the Chives, teams that can kind of come down here and round out our schedule. And I think as the program continues to grow and get better, certainly for us trying to continue to challenge ourselves against better and better teams, obviously to help us keep pushing forward and getting better.
You've got a situation where you could make a nice run here at making the NESCAC tournament. If everything goes according to plan. You have a non-conference game at Southern Maine. You're then going on the road to Middlebury. You have a home game, a non-conference against Presque Isle, then a couple road games on the road against Tufts and Bates. Basically, you have teams who are behind you except for Middlebury left in the NESCAC run. You guys are kind of in a position where you control your own destiny a little bit, and I'm sure this weekend was a big boost to that.
Definitely. Obviously, coming into this weekend at 1-4, certainly you're looking at the rest of the conference schedule and trying to figure out how you're going to be able to make it, and being able to pull off the sweep this weekend, obviously puts us in a much better place. Getting the 3 wins in conference, was the first time since I think going back to 2010 that we were able to again win on back-to-back nights in the NESCAC, which again is I think a huge and significant step for the program. And as you talk and you look at good teams, obviously being able to go on the road and be able to compete and win, tough league contests, on the road is what lies ahead for us. And certainly, I think if we can get it done, over the next 3 games, certainly we do control our own destiny and can, punch our ticket to the NESCAC tournament. And I certainly know it's going to be, a tough task. But again, I think our guys, have really just done a tremendous job of preparing themselves, for the season, through the season. Our practices have been just terrific and competitive, and just the spirit and energy around the guys. It's really been awesome to see. And certainly coming off this past weekend, it just really fuels that fire even more. So.
You've got the game against Southern Maine coming up here on Tuesday. You've got the game against Maine Presque Isle coming up next Tuesday. Is the design of those non-conference games there in the middle kind of along the lines of keeping the guys playing so you're not stuck on just playing weekends?
Yeah, definitely. And certainly, again, for us, filling out the 24-game schedule, you kind of have to fit some midweek games in sort of, later on in the year. And, you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday typically is our off day. So it certainly is nice to, again, have some of those Tuesday contests where we can sort of use one day to get ready for those non-league games, have a chance to keep working on things and go out and compete against someone else. Again, for us, as we look to continue to build a program, I think being able to compete and play against the teams in the state is obviously something that's important to us, and trying to establish ourselves and where we stack up relative to the other main schools, in Division III here, and obviously then have 2 days to get ready for the NESCAC games. So it's it definitely at times seems like these games are just piling up on each other back to back to back, and the preparation going into them. But again, I think it's a great opportunity for us to keep working and have a chance to play against those non-conference teams and continue to work and get better and hopefully have that carry over into our weekends.
Well, impressive win over Amherst. Nice way to back it up against Trinity in a crazy game in overtime. I certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show. As always, we give our guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Dave, much appreciate having me on. Again, it's been just a fun season. It's hard to believe we're moving into the last couple of weeks of the regular season here, and certainly looking forward to seeing how the season plays out and continue to work and push it with our guys and see where things come playoff time. So I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll certainly look forward to seeing how the Mules do as they make a push for the tournament.
Thanks, Dave.
Take care.
Take care.
Coach Damian Strayhorn joining us. Of course, the NESCAC tournament is what I'm referring to. Of course, you win the NESCAC tournament, you get into the NCAA tournament. Interesting dynamic in the NESCAC. Real quick before we let you go, Amherst is now 6-1. Williams 5-1. Williams, I think, playing right now. No, they are not. My bad. They beat Middlebury though, who is certainly struggling at 3-2 in the conference. Bowdoin's third, Middlebury, then Wesley, and then Colby. All in a battle. Granted, Amherst, Williams, and Bowdoin have probably locked up themselves into the conference tournament with Middlebury, Wesley, and Colby trying to position themselves. Again, the big key here is, can this conference get more than 2 bids in? Amherst, Williams, and Bowdoin are certainly in good shape, but take a couple more tough losses, and we may be discussing other things along those lines. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Colby White Mules, once again, overall they are 11-8, but 3-4 in conference play and right into the mix in the NESCAC. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to switch into women's basketball, talk to a team that is certainly playing very good basketball down in the ODAC, down in the South region, and really only their losses haven't been that bad. A little couple tough ones, but certainly not horrible season so far. We'll talk to Eastern Mennonite when we come back. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back right after this.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Every season starts with a hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 21st through 22nd in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, hosted by the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday as we prepare for the Super Bowl, some other big game taking place. Of course, this could be your unofficial Super Bowl pregame. Talking basketball, though. We got a month left in the Division III regular season and plenty more to talk about as we get ready to break down kind of what is and isn't going on in Division III. Of course, that means a lot of upsets along the way sometimes as well, but it also means kind of checking in with teams that are on top of their conferences and figuring out what the last week really does look like, or month, I should say, before we get into conference tournaments and hopefully the NCAA tournament for many. Of course, only 126 teams will make the NCAA tournament, 64 on the women and 62 on the men. So conference tournaments are certainly important, and positioning yourselves for those are important as well, and we'll talk about that with our guests coming up. But first, you can interact with us or ask our guest questions at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville is your Twitter information. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or on Facebook you can ask us questions as well. Facebook.com/Hoopsville and ask us questions there. As we mentioned, our next guest is one of those teams that are positioning themselves in a tough conference to try and take advantage of at least being the number one seed. That kind of washes out a little bit when you get to the Salem Civic Center anyway. But Eastern Mennonite women's basketball coach Kevin Griffin joins us on the hotline. Team is 15-4 overall, 9-1 in the ODAC. And Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. Your team playing really good basketball, one of those teams that have talked to other teams that you've played and said, I'm glad I had them on my schedule. A win or even a tough loss to them is going to help us in some capacity, whether it's SOS numbers or improving a team, etc. Your losses haven't been bad. They've been against really good teams for the most part. And now you guys are on a roll, winning 6 straight. After a little bit of a bump in the road to start 2014. How do you feel the team's doing?
I'm excited, and I think we're finally starting to get healthy. We have had a really tough non-conference schedule, and I don't say that in any bragging way, but all of those games, we played at York, at Ferrum, at Johns Hopkins, so that's 3 really tough places to go, and played 2 of those 3, really 3 of those 3, without a starting senior 4-year captain, and Steph Reinheimer. So we didn't have her basically the whole first semester. I feel like we didn't play great down at Roanoke, but I feel like since then we're starting to put it together. We're starting to get healthy. We've adjusted how we defend a little bit better based on some of these new rules, and I'm having to adjust that too. So, again, we know we're a long, long way from where we need to be, but we're excited.
Well, I was going to say, York, you lose by 13 there near the beginning of the season, and of course they just took their first loss of the season, so that's not a bad one. Ferrum only has 1 loss in the year. You barely lost at their place by 6. Johns Hopkins, who unfortunately right now appears to be in a bit of a tailspin, still a good team. You lose by them, to them, I should say, by 9 on the road in a game that was picked up pretty late last minute, but well-deserved for both teams. Roanoke's the only blemish on here. Of course, all these losses are on the road. You're holding home court. That's certainly important. What have you taken from the losses so far, granted without your best player, and how have you used them moving forward?
Well, we knew that we were just trying to say we're going to use these games and this schedule to try to be better at the end of February. And we still have a goal to try to win our conference. That's really what matters most. And so we're trying to use those games to get you ready to win a conference. And again, then it just takes some luck and it takes some help. And so all we tried to say is, look, every single day, on ESPN, every single night, there are teams that get upset. It's conference basketball. And we just try to, come to work every single day, one day at a time, and say, who's in front of us next? And let's try to be better than we were last week. And I know that's really cliche, but that's just where we're at.
You have 3 seniors on the squad, really one of them leading the way, and I'm going to not even to try it now. Bianca, how do you say Bianca's last name?
Bianca Igarza.
Igarza. Of course, I believe she's got a sister on the team as well.
She does.
This is a senior who's got 14.1 points a game, hauling in 6.5 rebounds a game, handing out 2.5 assists a game, and even stealing a ball or two during a basketball game. She's given you a lot of opportunities there, and certainly the underclassmen seem to be thriving on that.
Yeah. It's funny. We played yesterday on the road, and right before the game started, Emory and Henry's coach said to me, I am missing that. And she pointed to Bianca, and she said, and the game hadn't even started, and she said, what that young lady brings in a pregame warm-up and her energy and her being vocal and how hard she works before the game ever starts, she said, when we get that, she said, I think we're on our way, but she said, do you realize what you have? And I said, yeah, I tell everybody. Bianca isn't the most talented player playing Division III. But man or girl, boy or girl, she's the hardest working kid I've ever coached. I mean, she just, over the course of 30 or 40 minutes, she's just going to outwork you. And she has been a dream and a pleasure to coach. And when she comes to practice every day, there's not a playoff, there's not a drill off. She brings it every day, and it's easy to coach. And so when you have that as a senior, it makes my job easy. She does the bulk of the workload in terms of practices and games.
Bianca, a nursing major, has been a two-time straight all first-team ODAC, and of course, I suspect there'll be 3 straight coming up here shortly. This is, she's joined in the scoring realm by Jess Reinheimer, sophomore with 11 points a game, 5 rebounds a game. Shakira Sykes, 10 points a game, hauling in 6 rebounds herself. All of them hand out assists as well. She's a junior, joined by junior Alyssa Brown at 8 points, nearly 8 points for more 2 other players as well. You've got some weapons, and you've got a lot of depth, it looks like, because you're not afraid to go deep on this bench.
No, we played Guilford last weekend, and she said to me, man, I really like your bench. You guys are deep. Sometimes it creates problems for us in that I feel bad that we don't get some other kids enough minutes. It's a good problem to have. I feel like we have a lot of pieces. We have a really good point guard. We have wings that can shoot. We have some kids that can defend. Our post players can play, inside. They can attack the basket. So it's been a really neat group to try to figure out who plays with who well and who to play when. And it's been a good group in terms of, if somebody tries to play us zone, we have kids that can shoot. If you try to play us man, we have kids that can attack you off the bounce. So we're excited. We by no means think we're great, but we do have a lot of kids that can do a lot of things.
Talk about this conference. You've got a game lead on Lynchburg, who's 8-2 in conference, but 11-8 overall. Guilford's 2 games back, along with Randolph-Macon and Virginia Wesleyan. All of them were pretty decent records. Shenandoah's lurking, Roanoke's back there as well, but it's really these 5 teams right now. Certainly being number 1 in the conference is beneficial for the, is it the first game do you play, or do you guys automatically ship to Salem, don't you?
Well, what happens is last year was the first year it went like this. We play half of our league once, the other half twice.
Right.
And so the top 4 seeds get a bye
to Salem.
And then 5 through 12, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will host a playoff game at home versus the bottom, and then those teams will move on. So it's a pretty neat format. I mean, everybody is in initially, but then the top 4 seeds get a bye.
So obviously being number 1 allows you to avoid a game that could trip you up and cause problems. You don't get to take advantage of being on the home court, but it at least doesn't shorten your week. I'm assuming the idea of not having a game trip you up or having an extra game in that week are probably the benefits of at least being one of those top 4, especially the number 1.
Yeah, I mean, you get the biggest thing for me, I think, in my mind, is it's rest. We're reaching the point of the time of year when kids are mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, it's just a long season. And so we try to be really smart about it. And so if you don't have to play in the beginning of that week, again, adrenaline could carry you if you win, but I just like the rest. I like another day to prepare, another day to look at who we're going to play. I don't know that it always works out by not playing, but certainly if you're asking me, do I want to play on Monday or wait till Thursday, I want to wait till Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. I had a feeling. Just a gut. Of course, this team is trying to make the NCAA tournament. Last year, 21-7, 15-1 in the ODAC, 22-4 the year before that, 17-3. Really good years, but I have this feeling it's been lurking that you guys would love to improve on what you've done in the past. You got to the first round, and unfortunately, Marymount tripped you guys up last year. The year before that, you lost at the Salem Civic Center in the championship game, and that was all that was written for you. I should say in the semifinals. I assume first round of the NCAA tournament isn't good enough.
No, it's hard to say it's not good enough because we understand, first of all, looking at the rest of our conference, how tough it's going to be. And so we do desperately want to go back there and do something when we get there. And I'm not just saying that as a coach. I think that in particular, the 3 seniors who have really, carried us, they want it badly. They had a taste of it last year. They want more than a taste. And they feel like we got there, and give all credit to Marymount. We didn't feel like we played well. We felt like they played really well. And so our kids feel like, listen, we have something else to prove. We feel like we're better than just a first-round entrance. But we'll be humbled if we get in, and we'll do our very best work because we know, I mean, like you said, you just went through some of the teams in our league. Our league is really good this year.
Yeah.
really good. And some people would say, well, your non-conference record isn't great. Well,
yeah, but your SOS number is good.
That's correct. That's exactly right. We've played a ton of people. We haven't backed away from anybody. And I'm not just talking about EMU. I mean, Macon has played them. Lynchburg's played them. So I'm excited about what's going to happen.
Well, and of course, everyone confuses it. It's not winning-loss against regional opponents is what the old term was, but not a conference. It's results versus. So they look at the result, and then they look at who you played. And, of course, the SOS number comes into play there as well. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk about your team. It's certainly a terrific season to this point, 15-4 overall, 9-1 in a tough conference. So you do have Washington and Lee on the road and Randolph on the road in the next two games. Maybe not the world beaters, but certainly you got to take care of business, I know. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
We're thankful that you gave us the opportunity. We're excited about what lies ahead. We know that this is a long, long way from being over, and conference basketball is just crazy. You know, any given night, which is cliche again, something can happen. And so we're going to come to work tomorrow and try to get better. And hopefully at the end of February, something great happens for a really, really neat group of kids. I really like our kids. They get along great. And in Division III, to watch that happen at this level, it's been exciting.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Good luck the rest of the way. You do have 6 games left in conference play, and then, of course, the ODAC tournament. Looking forward to seeing how you do there, and maybe even see you when I'm down there. I'm hoping maybe to be down there for the tournament as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Take care, Coach.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Coach Kevin Griffin joining us from Eastern Mennonite. Again, women's team's 15-4, 9-1 in conference play, positioning themselves very nicely right now as the number 1 team in the ODAC. They got to take care of business on the road against Washington Lee and Randolph. They're then home against Bridgewater and Roanoke. Would love to avenge that one loss in conference play at home against Roanoke. They then play Shenandoah and Lynchburg away and then home. None of those teams, except for Lynchburg I mentioned, are at the top of the conference right now. So somewhat of an easy schedule in the sense that you're not playing some of the top teams in the conference except for Lynchburg. However, as Roanoke proved, anybody can beat you on any given day, and so still lots of work ahead for Eastern Mennonite as we move forward. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump back into some men's basketball, go up into the East region, talk to a team who was a Cinderella last year in men's basketball play, a team that many of you probably remember well, Morrisville State. We'll talk to their head coach about the season this year and how they are trying to battle back to the NCAA tournament. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back right after this.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Broadcasting out of our Hoopsville studios here in the greater Baltimore area in the Mid-Atlantic region. We appreciate all your support as we had it on Thursday during our 12-hour marathon. And, of course, on the Hoopsville fundraising project, if you're wanting more information on the project, which continues for another week, please go to our Twitter page, our Facebook page, or d3hoops.com. Of course, Twitter, it's twitter.com/d3hoopsville. Also, Facebook, it's facebook.com/Hoopsville. And, of course, email us with any questions, Hoopsville@d3hoops.com. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to consider donating to the cause. Yes, we've met our goal, but we have a week left to raise as much as possible to help improve the show, help us travel with the show, et cetera, et cetera. We've already started making updates and upgrades to the programming or to the broadcast. New stream provider we're attempting this year. We'll see if we'll stick with it. Of course, new computer, et cetera, et cetera. Again, if you have questions for us or our guests, go ahead and tweet us or email us or Facebook us at D3Hoopsville, #Hoopsville. Hoopsville@d3hoops.com is your email, and Facebook.com/Hoopsville. One of the teams that certainly garnered our attention last year, especially in the NCAA tournament, with big wins early on, starting with Ramapo, then a win over Rhode Island College before traveling to St. Mary's in a thrilling game there, which came up short of continuing the Cinderella season. But Morrisville State garnered the attention nonetheless, even got preseason top 25 love before starting off the season. Probably a little more difficult than their coach had hoped. So we'll talk to him about that as they try and fight their way back into the NCAA tournament. Coach Joe Smith joins us on the Hoopsville hotline. The team is 11-6 overall, Coach, and welcome to the show once again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. I suspect when you looked at the success you guys had last season, the one thing you didn't expect was to lose 3 of the first 5 and 5 of the first 9 before by the time you ended 2013. I'm quite sure you weren't expecting to be 4-5 at that point in time.
No, I wasn't expecting that. I certainly wasn't hoping for that, but I knew that looking at our schedule, we had some tough teams there. NYU is a very tough team. Geneseo is another tough team, and Hamilton, they're a tough team as well. I knew it would be tough. We lost a couple of close ones before the Christmas break, and that kind of put us in a place we didn't want to be. But coming back from the break, we've done pretty well.
Yeah, those 5 losses, 4 of them on the road at NYU, at Geneseo, at Lancaster Bible and Conference play, and at Hamilton in non-conference. Cayuga was the home loss that you guys had, and you turned that around, and you guys have, since losing to Penn State Abington on the 18th, you have now won 5 straight games. Certainly looking like a pretty good squad at this point, starting to win with some confidence, it would appear. You got that Cayuga game back in almost the same fashion they beat you guys. What's been the mindset with the team in 2014 part of the scheduling?
Well, I think we're in the heart of conference play, and the guys know that we're sitting right now probably tied for second or in second place alone, depending on what happens today. But, our guys want to finish, we got a lot of seniors, and they want to finish as strong as possible. I think also, losing those early games, I think they kind of maybe got the pressure of, being a top 25 team and everyone thinking that, well, they got to go further than they did last year. Now, it's a different team, different guys, a good group coming back, a good group that's with us. But, I just think that the pressure's off. Now they just want to win and try to do as best we can in our league and see what happens when the league tournament comes around.
Of course, 3-3 in conference play before rolling off these 5 straight, looking pretty good. You'll have a game against SUNY Canton in non-conference play before then taking on Lancaster Bible, Penn State Berks, SUNY IT in the next 4 of, what is this? Wow, you got 9 games left in the season. On a pretty tight window before you get even into the conference tournament. A lot of stuff's kind of backing up on you guys on the back end here.
Yeah, the league schedule came out, and we did a lot of traveling early on. And I looked at it and said, well, we got a lot of games at home. A couple back-to-backs there, but our guys have been through it before, and hopefully we're ready to do it again. But our league's a little better this year than it was last year. Everyone's playing each other tighter, and they've done a little better in the non-conference. So I think our league as a whole is better.
I should say 8 games remaining, 7 in conference, all but 2 at home. Makes a big difference. Of course, this homestand starting with Casanova, the win yesterday, 94-88. So you think that maybe there was a little bit of we made it to the NCAA tournament, made the Sweet 16, getting some top 25 attention. We're pretty good, and almost should come naturally to us.
As much as I preached against that happening, I think that in the back of the kids' minds, probably it did. I think. When you make a run like that, you forget, and the summer comes by and the fall and stuff, you forget how hard it actually was and how many things kind of have to go your way to make that happen. Little plays here and there, and sometimes some luck has to come your way. And, getting a team to think that way again and to realize how hard it is my job. And, I thought I did a good job of it, but, we lost a few close ones, and then it actually came to the kids' heads that, hey, this isn't as easy as we might remember it.
Of course, 2 years ago, won the conference tournament and made the NCAA tournament, losing to Middlebury. Then last year, winning the conference tournament, as we mentioned, winning 3 straight in the tournament, or I should say 2 straight before running into St. Mary's. Obviously, this is a conference that usually, for the most part, is a win the conference, go to the NCAA tournament, otherwise go home mentality. So it doesn't really matter what you guys did at the beginning of the year, though you certainly have some good teams that boost your SOS. There's got to be some mentality that, it doesn't matter because we got to win this conference anyway.
Yeah, we look at it that way pretty much from the beginning of the season. I think we know that we've got to win our conference tournament in order to get the NCAAs. I mean, there really isn't much of a. I don't think anyone on our team or mostly anyone in our conference believes that they would be eligible for an at-large bid.
This is I see that right? 6 or 7 seniors on this squad, and almost all of them are the ones who are leading this team. When you look at the stat sheet, Jordan Pryor 17.2 points a game, Brandon Hicks over 14 points a game, nearly 11 points from Tom Wilk, Kinsey. Is a senior as well. He's 4th on the team in scoring at nearly 10 points a game. Adder is a senior. He's 8.6. I mean, that's the first 5 guys we've talked about. They're all seniors leading the team in scoring. So the underclassmen certainly getting experience, but this is a senior-laden team.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had some games where that has really stepped up. We lost a couple, like I said before, close ones, but we were right there. And I think having seniors, they have confidence. They've been in big games before, and so we're really counting on that leadership and that experience to help us down the stretch.
Yeah, I should say the top 6 are all seniors. You have the experience of being in the tournament. Obviously, you're fighting back to get in position. You're in second place, as you pointed out, either tied or will be there by yourself, depending on how Penn State Abingdon does today. Lancaster Bible is ahead of you. In conference, this is a wide-ranging conference in terms of travel. How much does that take a toll?
Well, it can, especially that we take a trip to play Penn State Abington near Philly, and then we drive down to Gallaudet, Washington D.C. Back to back. That can be tough, but everyone in our league has to do it, and those teams have to come up and play us up north, New York. So I don't look at it as a disadvantage. It's just another challenge, and luckily we have been able to. Our schedule this year is we got all of our long trips away early on.
Yeah.
And, we lost a couple of games on those road trips, but we also won a couple of tough games. So, now they've got to come play us at home, and I'm hoping that will work to our advantage.
You got the non-conference game at home against SUNY Canton coming up, so you don't have to avoid the trip to the extreme northern part of New York State. What is the?
We made that last year.
Yeah, I know. What's the challenge with this game? Certainly, maybe it's non-conference, but is it hard to get them focused on the Kangaroos before you got to have them focused on Lancaster Bible for a battle for the top of the conference?
I don't think so. I think that's part of what you mentioned before. Our seniors, they know that this game is a game that is important to us to try to get better, to work on the things we need to work on, and get another W for their for their careers, and they want to win every game. They want to play well in every game, and a night game at home in front of our home crowd. We've had some pretty good crowds recently, and we're hoping that that'll help. And I think we just look at it as let's take this as another league game and let's play it as best we can and try to fix some of the things we need to work on.
Suiton Canton, I believe, is independent. You never know. They might be looking for a conference, so this could turn into a conference game for all you know down the road.
Yeah.
In the ever-changing NEAC, is that tough to deal with as well? I mean, you guys had Penn State Harrisburg last year. They left for the Capital Athletic Conference. It tends to be that the NEAC is a stopping-off point for a lot of teams on their way to other conferences.
Well, yeah, I mean it's tough, and we hear rumors about different teams coming in, and next year we'll have a couple new teams coming in as well. So it is. I don't know if it's tough, but it makes your job as a coach trying to figure out what are these other teams all about, and try to get as much information as you can early on. But once the season rolls around, we're able to watch film and just find new hotels to stay in and that kind of thing. But I don't think it's too bad. The NEAC has had a reputation of that, and I think they're trying to solidify a group. I don't want it to get too big, but
sure.
They're going to add a couple new teams next year, and we'll see. We're just we play them. They schedule and we'll play them, I guess, is the attitude we have to take.
Of course, Morrisville State spent 2 years in the SUNYAC before leaving with the NEAC as you came into the program. So not unfamiliar with moving around just a little bit themselves. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Certainly going to look forward to watching the team moving forward and see how the Mustangs do. You got big games up ahead, obviously. Lancaster Bible, the big one coming up, but you got to get past SUNY Canton at least to stay focused. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I hope that with all these home games coming up, that we get as good a crowd as we had yesterday. We really packed our gym, and anybody that's listening, I'd encourage you to come watch our games. It was a lot of fun, and we got a lot of home ones, and we could really use the support.
Oh, absolutely. Home games are essential. If you get a good crowd, it can make a big difference. So congratulations on the season so far. I mean, to see the fight to get back into the fray is certainly nice to see from a team. I know you're probably thrilled with that as well. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll hopefully be talking about the Mustangs come NCAA tournament time once again.
I hope so. It would be a great honor, and I look forward to that.
Very good. Coach Smith joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Morrisville State. Maybe 11-6 overall, but they have only lost one game in 2014, having won 7 of their last 8. SUNY Canton at home in non-conference play, maybe future conference affiliation. I say that because it makes some sense for SUNY Canton. I don't think there's anybody else who's interested in picking up SUNY Canton. And, of course, then into conference play with Lancaster Bible, Penn State, Berks. The next 3 all next week. Of course, all of their games but 2, SUNY IT and SUNY Cobleskill, are going to be teams that are on the road. That's the 12th and 16th before they finish off the season at home. Wells, Gallaudet, and Penn State Abington. We're going to take another break. When we return, we're going to talk to the number 10 team in the country, the Whitewater Warhawks. Talk about maybe how the Warhawks are flying a little bit under the radar, as it were. Could that be a recipe for disaster for other teams? You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Back with more Hoopsville right after this.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on a Sunday time period, a little bit earlier than normal, so I'm sure many people may be missing out on the show or just not thinking about us being on the air. That's okay. That's why we have it available on archive. It is available for you to enjoy at a later time. Just didn't think we'd have anybody watching if we aired it during the same time as the big game in the NFL, which is why almost every year we've aired it earlier in the day. I think last year, actually, we aired it the day after. Maybe something we'll consider in the future as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Broadcasters. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville, and, of course, email Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Lots of ways to interact with us and ask questions of our guests. Also, you can keep track of our fundraising campaign. Thanks to Thursday's 12-hour Marathon Plus, we were able to meet our goal, but the campaign still has a week left in it, and so you've got a chance to donate through February 9th if you so wish. When you do so, we have many perks still available that you can select, which will include getting a chance to get a Hoopsville t-shirt. You can also get a chance to get the guest of your choosing on the air, have us wear one of your school's shirts. Lots of ways you can interact with us. We certainly hope you'll consider donating as little as you can, or at least passing it on to others. The more we have, the more we can possibly do with the show, and certainly put into our rainy day fund as well in case we have problems that we need to take care of. We appreciate all of you who have done so and donated so far. It really means a lot to us, and we certainly look forward to showing you what we are going to do with those funds. Let's jump back to the Hoopsville hotline, and we're going to go into our NABC Coaches Corner. The NABC certainly a big supporter of the show as well. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline in the NABC Coaches Corner is Coach Pat Miller from Wisconsin-Whitewater. Team is 15-3 overall, and should say 17-3 overall. My mistake. 8-3 in conference action. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville once again.
No, thanks. It's always great to be with you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. This is maybe a team that's flying a little bit under the radar, mainly because there's another behemoth in the WIAC this year in Stevens Point, who's still undefeated at 20-0 and 11-0 in conference. You're sitting in second, 3 games back. I hate to ask this, but I would love to get your take. Do you think there's any chance of catching the Pointers at this point for the top of the conference?
Well, the optimist in me says there's always a chance, but I think it's going to be difficult. Stevens Point's playing very well. Our conference this year is a little bit different. We usually have pretty good balance, but I don't think we have that type of balance, and I just don't know how many teams in the conference are capable of beating them. We obviously have a shot at them on Wednesday at home. So we can help our cause there. But when you need 2 games of help at this point in the season, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, you faced them earlier in the season right after you lost to Stout. So you unfortunately had 2 back-to-back games where you lost, both on the road. Stevens Point tripped you up by 12 at the time. That was the closest game Stevens Point had all season long. You now get them in a return match at your place. Certainly, home court advantage can be a major key. How do you see it? How do you see the home court balancing out for yourselves?
Well, we typically play well at home. And early in the season, that was first and foremost a very difficult stretch. Stout was playing very well. They were unbeaten at that time and very healthy. They've battled through some injuries and some inconsistency. And Stevens Point was just playing unbelievable. I believe they were shooting 62% from 3 as a team and 60% from 2 as a team when we played them. We held them to 52% from 3 and 50% from the floor. They've cooled off considerably.
Yeah.
So, I think we've improved. I agree with your assessment. We are flying a little bit under the radar. We've gotten much better defensively over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
And it's a game. We have veteran guys. A lot of the guys we have played on the 2012 team. They've been in big games.
Yeah.
And I think it's a rematch they're very much looking forward to.
3 straight games on the road. We're fouled by 3 straight games, or I should say at home, we're fouled by 3 straight games on the road. And you started that road stretch with a tough loss to La Crosse. La Crosse sitting 2 games back of you guys in the conference. I'm sure that's one of those games where you as a coach goes, come on.
They're tough. And when we lost up at Stout, I didn't think we played great, but I thought Stout played exceptionally well. They shot 60% from the floor. They had guys step up and hit threes that don't typically hit them. And sometimes those games happen, and the La Crosse game was very much like that. We knew going in they were a very good three-point shooting team. We wanted to keep them off the three-point line, and they ended up hitting 15 three-pointers. And on the road against a team that makes 15 threes, that's a hard obstacle to overcome.
You certainly had some good challenges when you looked at them on paper this season. Hope, you guys beat them by 13. They're struggling a little bit this season. Maybe not as good as everyone expected. You have a nice win over St. Norbert, who's having a terrific season. When you looked at the conference, you knew the conference was going to be hard. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The conference schedule is going to be challenging. So what was the mentality when you went into to off-season, or I should say out-of-conference scheduling?
It's important for me to have our teams play good opponents. We've played Whitworth in the past. We've played Illinois Wesleyan non-conference. We've played Augustana. We've played North Central, because it gives you a true gauge of where you're at.
Yeah.
Playing the other high-level teams, you can see how you match up, what you need to do better. And they're just valuable games, and their games are quite frankly, our fans enjoy. They like to see us play good teams, especially having a quality opponent like Hope come into our arena was great, and we'll return that game next year. So I've always thought it was important to play tough teams and see where your team's at, and fortunately there's some teams that are willing to play.
You have 4 seniors on this squad and a whole host of juniors, so you're well positioned for the future, even after you lose these seniors. Of course, led by KJ Evans, 16 points a game, 12.5 from Reggie Hearn, 12 from Eric Bryson, 11 points from Cordell Young. Those are the double figures, as it were. You're still getting plenty of contributions from other players, including seniors like Alex Merg. When you look at what you've got for a unit this year, certainly well positioned for next year. But what are the nuances about this year's team that could make you a real deep threat?
I think the biggest asset we have is we have great perimeter defenders. Alex Merg and Patrick Suter are great on-ball defenders. Eric Bryson is a great defender, and that really allows us to take teams out of what they want to do offensively. We don't have great interior depth, and that was our question going into the year. And Reggie Hearn, without question, has exceeded all expectation in terms of productivity, the number of minutes he's been able to play. He's been much better defensively than I had hoped and anticipated. Steve Egan has given us quality minutes off the bench. So going in, our inside play was our question mark, our rebounding, and we've done those things pretty well. The strength is clearly our perimeter defense, and then having a player like Cordell Young, who I obviously haven't seen everyone in Division III, but I have to believe he's one of the best guys in the country in terms of breaking down defense and being able to create off the dribble. Just a spectacular athlete, very shifty, and we have nice balance with this team. We defend pretty well. We score well. We're balanced in our scoring. If we have one weakness that concerns me, is our perimeter shooting can be a little hit and miss, and when we don't knock down perimeter shots, we're not quite as effective.
You're up to nearly 300 wins. Let's see, 262 plus 17 gives us 89. Certainly a great winning percentage behind a lot of good coaches who have coached there. Bo Ryan, Ken Anderson, and Jack Bennett in WIAC history, I should say. You're 4th all time. How's this experience been since being hired prior to the 01-02 campaign?
Oh, it's been great. The WIC is a great conference, and I played in the conference. I was an assistant coach in the conference, and watch Ken Anderson's teams and watch Bo Ryan's teams and watch Jack Bennett's teams. And if you have any type of basketball mentality, you can't help but watch those programs, see how they do things and what you can take from it. And then working with and playing for a Hall of Fame coach in Dave Vandermeulen, I learned an unbelievable amount about basketball and how to manage players and how to manage a season. So I've been very fortunate because I've directly been under a great coach. I've had the opportunity to see very successful programs and how they operate, and that's just given me a very solid blueprint as to how to go about putting together successful teams.
Speaking of assistant coaches, I suspect there was a wise smile on your face when you picked up your assistant coach in the offseason, and Nick Bennett, former Stevens Point's all-star, essentially. That's what's called a nice steal from the opposition, as it were.
No, it was a great hire, and Jack and I are good friends, and I obviously have a lot of respect for Jack and Nick, and it just was a good situation. Nick had some stops at some Division I schools, was back in the area, and you're right, it definitely brought a smile to my face for a lot of reasons. Number one, he's very good, great recruiter, great ties, very good basketball mind. And number two, just a little bit of irony of having a Point guy on our staff was amusing. It's been a great rivalry with Point, one of mutual respect. Yeah. And I can fill you in on a little information you might like. This is Wednesday when we play Point. I will not be there.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to have some cervical spine surgery tomorrow.
Oh, Coach, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that was not anything they gave me the option of putting off. So that will be Nick and I have laughed about that I'm leaving him for his first game as a head coach against his alma mater, who's ranked number 1 in the country.
Tell me you didn't at least time it the way you wanted to time it.
Trust me, if I were able to time it the way I wanted to time it, this would be taking place in early April.
Certainly, I don't disagree with that, but the little inside brain in mine goes, he went, I have a week to choose this from. I'm going to pick the one right before the Stevens Point game.
No, actually, the only positive is the Superior trip is on the back end, and I will not be able to go there. So that one, but it was a situation, actually my neurosurgeon, great guy, really worked well with me. His dad was a Division I player and a basketball coach, and so he understands where we're at and the importance of the season, and he just basically said, you're not waiting till the season's over. We're going to do this at this date. We're going to do the least invasive procedure that we can to try to fix. I basically have 2 pretty significant issues that need to be addressed, or there's serious implications for some long-term issues. So it'll be interesting for Nick, and I haven't had great success against Point the last couple of years, so maybe in the greater scheme of things, this was how it was supposed to go. Hire him and let him take care of his alma mater.
If they win, oh wow! I got to ask you this too. One of the big things about you guys winning the national championship was the play of Victor Davis. Of course, he went and focused more on football. How hard have you been trying to recruit him to come back and play?
Oh, I would love it if Chris Davis had any eligibility remaining. He actually played in our alumni game yesterday, and one of the old school guys thought it'd be a good idea to try to start a trash talking scenario with him that resulted in about 7 consecutive 3-pointers. So Chris can still play. He did a great job, I think, in football. He didn't play as much as he probably had hoped, but I thought he really provided some good leadership for them and embraced the experience. To have the opportunity to win a national championship in both basketball and football is an amazing experience, and he was just a great guy, a great part of our program, and I'm sure he'll be a great ally to the program for a long time to come.
I felt bad because I was in this Hotel Roanoke for the Stag Bowl this year, and I was looking at some of the paraphernalia that they had on for sale, as I always do, and was being smart not to buy any. And as I was walking down the line, a tall gentleman looked at me in Whitewater gear and said, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, great," but I'm blanking. I'm like, God, he looks familiar. I can't figure it. It was Victor. I didn't recognize him in that context. I was so used to him on the basketball court. Coach, you are in our Coach's Corner, so if you don't mind us having a little fun with you, asking you some coaching questions that we have as part of the NABC Coach's Corner, we'd love to do so.
All right, let's do it.
All right. First and foremost, kind of a hybrid question. What's the best part of coaching in Division III, or what's your favorite part about coaching in general?
I love the interaction with the players, the day-to-day process, trying to get teams better, and being in that atmosphere is without question the best aspect of it.
When you, let's see, biggest pet peeve you have as a coach?
I would say at times dealing with inconsistencies, the way games are played and managed. I think with the rule changes, they've tried to eliminate some of the subjectivity. I think early on games were called very closely. I think there's some slippage now, and I think oftentimes it's difficult for the officials, it's difficult for the players to get a great sense of how games are going to be called and be administered. And that's just a liquid process that's going to continue. But that's the one thing that's difficult, because night in and night out it changes pretty considerably.
I can understand that. What rule or nuance of the game do you love?
Well, I really like the new rules in terms of not allowing teams to restrict movement, not allowing them to block cutters. I'm old school in that I think basketball is a movement game. It should be a free-flowing game, a game that people with skill level and quickness and the ability to shoot the basketball, those are the things that should be displayed. And when you allow people to block cutters, put two hands on drivers, I think you really negate the skill of the game. You take players who may be average athletes and they're able to compete against higher level athletes because of those type of nuances. So I'm all for the freedom of movement and the less restrictions or more restrictions on contact.
I'm assuming then you love the new rule about hand checking, as you point out.
I do it for sure.
Yeah, I do too. What rule would you like to see changed or completely removed from the game?
That's another great one. I don't know if a change I would like to see, and I think they've addressed it pretty well with the block charge situation. Is I'm really disappointed when teams slide in, flop without contact. That was a big thing. It's not as dramatic now, but I'm sure coaches taught that to slide in, go down, and I just thought those were bad basketball plays. I thought they were potentially dangerous plays, and I'm glad they've made it more difficult for the defender to draw a charge with the upward movement of the offensive player dictating when the play starts.
Sure.
So I think that was a positive change, and that's an area that I think really needed to be addressed.
If your wife is watching the game, or a friend of yours, whoever, what do you think they would say to you that you'd like, or what would they say if asked that they would like you to change on the bench?
Oh, I'm sure they would like me to calm down a little bit, have less conversations with the officials.
I can understand that. Same question, but from your assistant coach's point of view.
I don't know. Those guys might want me to talk to the officials more. I think that they see it as kind of a little bit of a source of entertainment.
Nice. Speaking of the referees, is there anything you can say to a ref that will get your point across, but won't cross the line? It'll come close, but it won't cross the line of getting a tech?
I think I try to have good rapport with the officials. What gets me in trouble is sarcasm. Not language or profanity, but sarcasm is what gets me in trouble more often than not.
I can understand that. And then finally, when you retire, and everybody eventually does, what do you hope people remember about you as a coach?
I just hope that people remember that I just attacked every day and tried to work hard and do what was best for the kids. I prided myself on trying to be a player's coach and let guys play and just try to create some structure that allows them to be successful, but make it about them and their experience. And, that's why even going into Wednesday's game, not being there, I think our guys will be fine. Nick will do a great job. And, as I told them, it's about them and what they've been doing since October, and they'll be fine.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk about your Warhawks and give us a little nugget there about Nick Bennett coaching on Wednesday. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, just thanks for all that you guys do. I really appreciate it. Your coverage of D3 sports and D3 basketball is it's a great thing. It keeps people engaged. It allows people to see how everyone's doing around the country, and you guys are our biggest supporters, and it's a great thing, and thanks for all that you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Coach. Good luck with the surgery, especially, and good luck to your Warhawks team as you progress down the last 5 games of the regular season.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Pat Miller joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Again, number 10 team in the country is 17-3 overall, maybe flying, as we said, a little under the radar. They have Wisconsin Stevens Point at home on the 5th. They're then on the road at Superior on Saturday. Next week, it's home against La Crosse, home against Oshkosh. They will then finish out the regular season a week later against Eau Claire, that game on the road. So 5 games left in the next 3 weeks of the season before we get into WIAC Conference tournament time. We'll see how they do. Of course, Stevens Point leading the conference standings right now at undefeated 20-0 and 11-0 in conference play. Whitewater 3 games back at 8-3. Platteville is 3.5 games back at 7-3. I'm making sure we didn't miss a game. We haven't. They've got an extra game on the backside of that. And, of course, then La Crosse and Stout at 6-5 in conference play. Going to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump into the Atlantic region and talk to Staten Island men's basketball coach Tony Petosa about his team and their chances of making the NCAA tournament. They're doing pretty well, but they're coming out of a struggling CUNYAC conference. We'll talk to him about what's going on with the team and how everything else is progressing. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back right after this.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. We're in the... Let's see, we're about 2 hours and 28 minutes into this. We only have about a half hour left, which is, compared to Thursday's 12-hour, 38-minute show, this is nothing. This is cake. But we have still plenty more to talk about. 2 more coaches ahead. College of Staten Island men's basketball, Tony Petosa is on the Hoopsville hotline. We'll get to him momentarily. And, of course, we also have coming up MacMurray's men's basketball coach out of the SLIAC. We do have some basketball going on today. And we'll double check some scores going on, but Wash U, number 7 team in the country, defeated Emory in a tough battle in Atlanta, 70-66. Of course, Wash U survived against Rochester on Wednesday. Let's see other games that jump out at us here. Carnegie Mellon defeated Brandeis 77-55. Brandeis struggling a little bit this year. NYU takes another loss in conference play. That's not going to help the East region get additional teams. Case Western Reserve defeated NYU 80-73. NYU has now lost 4 of their last 6 games. And of course, 4 of their last 5 have been losses, all in conference action. Tough going there, to be sure. Rochester did defeat Chicago by 10. And Penn State Abington beat Wells 80-79. So Penn State Abington tied with a previous guest we had, Morrisville State, for second place in the NEAC. On the women's side, quickly, WashU and Emory playing. Last score update we got, let's see here, 11-10. WashU leads Emory with a 13-19 to go in the first. And NYU women lead Case 24-17 with 5:54 left to go in that one. No other scores jumping out at me as significant, but we'll keep an eye on them anyway. Ferrum is playing William Peace, so I don't expect an upset there, but we'll keep an eye there as well. Going to jump to the Hoopsville hotline, talk Atlantic men's basketball with a coach familiar with the region, and of course with a team that is playing pretty good basketball, and that is the Staten Island men's basketball team. Coach Tony Petosa joining us here on the Hoopsville hotline. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. This is one of those deals where you're 17-2 overall, but you play in a conference that really, lack of a better description, isn't up to snuff, so you kind of don't get a lot of the attention that maybe others with a 17-2 record get. Your point of view on all that?
Well, you know what? I might agree or tend to disagree depending on the year. If you look at our conference this year, we've had some of our teams, including us, have had some wins outside of conference from some of the so-called power conferences, and it's not just 1 or 2 wins. I think we probably won at least 7 games outside against teams just in the NJAC alone. So even though maybe we're beating ourselves up a little bit, I think we're doing a pretty good job outside of the conference. So I think this year it's not as bad as it was possibly as last year.
You guys have won 16 straight after starting the season 1-2 with losses to Eastern Mennonite and a loss to FTU Florham, sandwiched around a win against Montclair State. You've gone on to win, as we mentioned, 16 straight, including Montclair State, a win over Ramapo, which was a high-scoring affair, a win over Randolph in the ODAC certainly looks good. You got a win over Kane in NJAC play, or from the NJAC, I should say, while rolling through your conference at 11-0 at this point in time. How's the team playing from your point of view?
Well, we're a little inconsistent, and I wish I could say game by game, almost minute to minute sometimes. I mean, the one thing that I think we've done a very good job with, for the most part, is our defense has been very, very good, and especially the last 4 or 5 games. If we're going to be good, that's what's going to make us good, because we could put the ball in the basket. We have a couple of kids that are very talented. What's going to put us over the top is whether or not we play on the defensive end and stop people from scoring.
You've won 389 games in your career. One of the most winningest coaches, I should say, in CSI history. That was the word I was looking for. Been there over 20 years. Where does this team rank? You've had some good teams over the years, like the 20-4 team back in 2012. But where does this team rank right now?
Well, listen, I do think we have as much talent as probably any other team that we've had here. If it's not one of my 3 most talented teams, it's definitely right up there with them. I just don't know. You can't make predictions until it's all said and done, pretty much. But in terms of ability, we do have the ability to put the ball in the basket. Whether or not we have the maturity, that's another issue, and I think that's the thing that I'm most concerned about.
You also have had some injury issues that have taken a couple guys from the squad. If you just look at stats and you can let us know their scenario, Blotchy McGlure played in 12 games, leads the team with 17.1 points a game. Jonathan Chadwick Myers is 14 points a game, but has only played in 11. You get down to the guy who's played the most, and it's Javon Cox, 13.8 points a game in 19 games. So you've had to deal with guys who have been able to play and haven't been able to play a lot this season.
Well, listen, that's why it was so much better right now, because I feel my 2 best scorers, which are Javon and Blucci, one was academically ineligible for half a year, and the other one had only a half semester left, so he chose to play the second half of the semester. They make all the difference in the world because they put the ball in the basket, and that's the one thing that we really didn't have is a go-to guy. Now I feel we have at times 2 go-to guys.
Well, of course, Will Fonseca, who's only played in 15 games, 12.5 points a game. Frankie Chatino, 10.5 points a game. You got 5 guys in double figures, and certainly more threats. I mean, Dylan Bolger's got 8.5 points a game. Kevin King's got 7.5 points a game. So you got 5 guys in double figures and still more weapons that you can choose from if necessary.
Well, that's the one thing. The reason why we're going to be, if we're going to be successful this year, it's because we have a bench, and that's something that I haven't had very often here. Usually I play 6 or 7 kids. Once in a while, maybe I go to 8. This year, we're looking at 8. Definitely 8, and sometimes 9, even 10. So that makes it a lot easier to coach, because if you run up against a team that's doing something that you're not used to doing, you can make adjustments. And if you only have 6 or 7 kids, it's not so easy to make adjustments. Yeah,
as you talk about the deep bench. 7 players on this team are seniors. You mentioned playing having only a half a semester left of eligibility. How much does this season have a feeling of this is our opportunity? We have to take advantage of this.
You know what? I don't know. See, that's a good question, because I remember last year saying to myself that this year is our building year for next year, where we could really be special. In one form, yes, we this is it, and then in the other one, well, you know what? You don't want to put it all in one year, because there are, I'm here a long time, so my feeling is if this is my last year, then maybe I would feel that. I don't know if this is my last year. I might coach another 25 years. You just don't know. So,
what, Coach? What you're leaving or no? Sorry.
No, listen. This profession. You got to take it one game at a time. People want to look down the road. People want to look years down the road. I'm just trying to get through. I want to get through tomorrow's game. That's all I care about.
Sure, I can understand that. Just it's important to get through each game individually. You do have Lehman up ahead in conference play. That's coming up, as you mentioned, tomorrow. St. Joseph's of Brooklyn, of course, tomorrow, weather permitting. St. Joseph's of Brooklyn comes up.
Do you know something I don't know?
I just know what we're getting in the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow. 4 to 6 inches, maybe more. Of course, Lehman sitting near the bottom of the conference, but with a good overall record. St. Joseph's of Brooklyn, you've got coming up in non-conference play. John Jay, then CCNY, and Medgar Evers. You got a nice scenario of a 2.5 game lead in the conference right now, but I know you don't want to rest on your laurels necessarily.
No, listen, we want to win the next game. That's the one thing I try to get across to my kids. Don't look down the road. Just win the next game, because we want to make this as difficult for the NCAA, especially and for us, to say no, you can't come. And again, I feel that we've won games out of conference, and our conference has won games out of conference against some of the better teams in the region. And as far as I'm concerned, you beat the other teams in the region. I think we have to be strongly considered, and we could really be undefeated right now if I had my kids the entire year. So I think that has to have an impact too, because we were, I think, 7-2 without my 2 best offensive players.
Yeah. 2 years ago, you get to the NCAA tournament, roll through Ithaca and Rhode Island College before then taking on MIT and losing in the Sweet 16. Last year, unfortunately, unceremoniously dumped by Catholic in the first round down at their place. This year, with your out-of-conference schedule, you've dipped into the NJAC, you've dipped into the ODAC in terms of bringing in those SOS numbers. So certainly your SOS may be vastly improved. I know you're saying the next game's important, but just to get you to look out ahead, making the NCAA tournament important, making a dent in the NCAA tournament important.
Well, listen, I of course it's important. That's what you play for. Getting to the NCAA important is really more than a conference tournament. At the Division III level, it probably means more to win the conference tournament, because for most teams, if you don't win it, you don't get in. I say this all the time. If we are North Carolina, you can lose 10 games and you're still going to go.
Exactly.
It's really comes down to those 3 games. But it'd be nice not to have to worry about put pressure on yourself if you can get to that point in time. But again, that's not a game down the road. That's 5 or 6 games down the road before we even have to worry about that.
Certainly, but you kind of. It brings up the CUNYAC a little bit. It's one of the lower considered conferences. The SOS tends not to help those at the top. Do you have to have the mentality, we got to win this conference no matter how well we did, even the teams we scheduled did in non-conference play?
Well, I think you always do. I mean, because again, what you're doing is you're putting it in. It's like playing a game for 39 minutes and having a tie game. You don't want to go into that last minute putting it in the hands of the officials. You want to finish that game prior to that. So you don't want to put it in the hands of the NCAA to make a decision. So there's no question you want to win the tournament.
Being that you are a CUNYAC team located on Staten Island, I got to imagine the last week you guys are probably happy you're on Staten Island. So you haven't had to deal with the chaos that has been the Super Bowl week. Of course, you did have to go to CCNY, but it was last weekend, or I should say earlier in the week. Is there a little bit of relief that the schedule allowed you to stay at home against Baruch on Saturday?
Well, listen, I think we're a better team at home. I think most teams feel that way. At least we play more comfortably at home. This week, we unfortunately have to go on the road for 3 straight.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of those trips takes us to the GW Bridge. So hopefully the traffic is moving a lot better than it has been.
No comments about traffic on the GW Bridge whatsoever. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I mean, the team is playing really well. Certainly, if you've won 16 straight games. Obviously, big battles still ahead in non-conference and conference action. Hopefully the weather permits is helpful for you, Coach. Good luck the rest of the way. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, listen, it's a long season, and we're just very fortunate to be in the position that we're in. And you know what? Again, bottom line is you got to win the next one in order for the game after that to be important.
Very good point. Thanks, Coach, so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the season. We'll look forward to talking Dolphins. I like talking about Dolphins. So Dolphins basketball coming up by the end of the month.
Thank you so very much.
Yep, take care of yourself.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Tony Petosa joining us from Staten Island. Again, 17-2 overall, 11-0 in conference play, 16 straight wins. Got Lehman in conference action coming up tomorrow, weather permitting. St. Joseph's of Brooklyn in non-conference play coming up on Thursday. Conference play on Saturday against John Jay. Then next week, their final 2 games at 13th and 18th, CCNY and Medgar Evers, and they have conference tournament action. So they've got 5 games left, 3 of them in conference, 4 of them in conference, I should say. We'll see how the Dolphins do to see if they can stay undefeated in the CUNYAC, which they did do a couple years ago. And we'll see how it all pans out for them. We mentioned weather. Another storm system rolling through the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow. Should even, I think, go up the coast. I think there's another storm lined up for midweek, and I think there's another storm ended up for the end of the week. Weather's been a big factor this year in the college basketball landscape. A lot of games have been adjusted. You'll remember the MIAC. We were talking to Hope's men's basketball coach on Thursday about the fact that they just couldn't seem to get Kalamazoo scheduled. I believe, or the MIAA, I said MIAC by accident, MIAA. I think if I read correctly, the teams that had to travel for MIA games on Saturday actually left on Friday and spent the night because of the predicted weather on Saturday. So games wouldn't be postponed necessarily. They didn't have to go as far. I don't know if that's dead accurate, but that's what I've been reading. You might be in another scenario here. I mean, the Midwest has got another storm system rolling through. The East Coast has got its storm systems rolling through. It's been a little bit chaotic, to say the least. And as we get later and later in the year now, we technically have 3 weeks left in conference season action before the final week of tournament action. Granted, the UAA doesn't have tournament action, and the NESCAC starts a week early. Time to fit these games in gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And you look at Cabrini and Wesley, a non-conference game. There's every excuse in the book not to play that game should it get postponed yet again tomorrow. It'd be the second postponement. But for those 2 teams, they want to play that game for other reasons, including helping their SOS. Cabrini would love to have another stab at a CAC team, and Wesley would love to beat an unranked or an undefeated team. So weather's starting to become a major factor here, and it's not supposed to be a good week, at least on the East Coast, and I don't think it's supposed to be a good week through the Midwest and Great Lakes ahead. So we'll see how many games are affected by this and how everything plays out. I'm going to take another break. When we come back, our final guest of the night, speaking of the Midwest, we'll talk to MacMurry men's basketball coach Todd Creel. His team is 14-4 overall, 10-1 in the SLIAC. We'll talk about another team that, you got to win it to get in another conference especially. We'll talk about how that impacts his season. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2014 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 21st and 22nd in Salem, Virginia, hosted by the Old Dominion Athletic Conference and the City of Salem. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with champions.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday as we get ready for the Super Bowl by talking Division III basketball. We are your Super Bowl pregame, let's just call ourselves. It's certainly more exciting than the actual pregame because we're actually talking about something we all care about, and that's Division III basketball. If you have any questions for us or our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Facebook us at facebook.com/hoopsville as well. That's also where you can get much more information on the Hoopsville fundraising project. We have met our goal, but we still have a week left in contributing or in the campaign, so you can still contribute to the cause. Your donations are much appreciated, help improving the show as well. So please join us if you can and donate to the cause. 1 week left to raise that money. Plenty more to talk about down the road. We were talking about the Midwest and weather that's been a hassle for everybody, of course, on the East Coast as well. And so we'll stay in the Midwest. Of course, we're kind of talking about this as the Central region as well, since the Midwest region in men's basketball will be officially called the Central, just like it has been on the women's side for a number of years. That will start next year. So we'll jump into the Central/Midwest region. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Todd Creel, men's basketball coach at MacMurry, whose team is 14-4 overall. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time to join us. First and foremost, I hear we should wish you an early birthday.
Yeah, I guess so. In the midst of the season, I don't get to think about that too much, but yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, you're thinking about it now because we just decided to tell you. So the team's playing pretty darn good basketball. You guys have kind of come not out of nowhere necessarily, but certainly I think surprising some. The team had a couple losses in the middle of the season that kind of disrupted things, but you guys have won 7 straight since then. You now sit at top of the conference in a tie with Spalding, who tripped you up earlier in the season, and you've got a game and a half lead on Webster. How are things in your eyes?
Well, we're playing pretty well. There's no doubt about that. To win 7 games in a row, and regardless of what league you're in league play is a good accomplishment. And our kids are really playing well. I think because traditionally, I think this being my 7th year, and we've had some 500, a game above 500 years. This has obviously been the season that started off the best for us, and it's kind of a little bit of new territory of trying to stay in that mode of trying to get better, and it's one thing to be talking to your kids about, man, we've got to overcome the low expectations of others and, rise to that challenge, and then to be 10-1 in league play right now and tied with Spalding relatively in the conference standings this late in the year, for them to not become complacent and think, man, we are really this good, and to continue to be hungry. So.
You have a loss early in the season. It was a tough one to Augustana, 100-69. You ran off a couple wins after that. Then Spalding tripped you by 11. How much do those two games, while different in obviously the opponent you're facing, how much are they a kind of a wake-up call, especially that Spalding game?
Well, Augustana, excuse me, I was an assistant at Augie for 2 years, and so I've under Coach Giovanni, and he's built one heck of a program. And we've traditionally tried in the non-league to play some of the teams like Illinois Wesleyan and Ron Rose's team, and Mark Edwards' Washington University team in years past. And we've always maintained the Augie because of the pre-existing relationship. And they've got a heck of a program, and anybody out of the CCIW is going to be a tall order for a SLIAC team. It really helps us see where you're trying to get to. You obviously we want to win our league, go to the conference tournament, and have an opportunity to get an NCAA tournament berth. But when you get to that NCAA tournament berth, you're going to face a CCIW team or a Washington University. So it really kind of helps us figure it out. And boy, I tell you what, we shot 67% in the first half against Augustana, and only turned it over 4 times, and we were down 17 at half. And that was quite an awakening to do that, to what we thought do that well. But that's a testament to their program and how good they are. And then, Spalding's been awfully good in our league, and we went into that game on the road. It's the farthest road trip that we have to make. Making no excuses, we missed 19 free throws in that game. And, we were without the services of a couple of guys that have started quite a few games for us in that game. But we had opportunities. Spalding is a great defensive club, and they really held us down. I think we shot 33-34% in that game, and it's just a tough road trip against a quality opponent, and we just weren't up to the task that day. But since then we've learned a lot from those. We've learned a lot from watching the film of those losses, and never want to lose, but if you can learn from it and be a better ball club coming out of it, which is what I think happened to us and is a big part of what we've been doing here lately. You've been there. This is your 5th season, and you've had nothing but, I don't mean that negatively, but 500 teams, considering before that the team was winning 3 or 6 games a season. You're now 14-4. This seems like a big breakthrough for this program. Well, it does. It seems like that, but as I told our kids, I said, we're 14-4, and by no means, we could be 14-11 and not in the conference tournament by the end of the season. Being 14-4 feels good. Being 10-1 feels good, but I try to tell a lot of people around our area and at our school that we're only as good as our next game. And I know that's coaches speak, but you just try to take them one game at a time. But there's no doubt we like to tell our kids on Saturdays, if we win, we get a day off on Sunday usually, to enjoy the success that we've had and be ready to go back at it on Monday to try to get the next one. Yeah, I should mention Blackburn is your next game coming up on Wednesday. On the road, then on the road with Webster, I should say. Then you finish out 4 of the next 5 at home. Certainly key games, especially with an upcoming game against Spalding, which will have a lot of implications if the two teams continue to play well. Well, you may have made mention of it, but what's the message to the team specifically? Well, just to take it again, it sounds cliche, but one game at a time. And Blackburn has had a little bit of a rough season, but they are our geographic rivals. They're only about 55 minutes from our campus, and there's a tremendous history of us playing really tight, really heated, really physical battles. And Webster, we were able to come from behind and beat Webster at our place. And, they were coming off the win over Spalding, Spalding's only defeat at this point. we were fortunate to come from behind in that game. We know that Webster is waiting to repay the favor at their place, and the whole idea is to not look past Blackburn. And they've got good players, and they've got all freshmen and sophomores, and they're in a similar situation to what this program was several years ago. But to make sure that we do our due diligence in preparing for every single team, and not look to a Saturday game when we could get beat on Wednesday, and then that would make the Saturday game even more critical. But we've got to make sure that we're ready to go for Wednesday.
Talking to Coach Todd Creel, who even has some dogs as his fans tuning into the show, just according to Twitter here. Wyatt, the Wonder Dog, is watching in. How much has it changed with Ohio Wesleyan entering the Iowa Wesleyan? I'm sorry, entering the conference and being a factor now?
Well, it's the first team, out of Iowa in our league, and it's a little bit of a farther trip, but having a 10-team conference, I think, is important. Obviously, to have balanced numbers and not, I know our conference commissioner is resting a little easier with the scheduling nightmares that a 9-team conference brings about. But they're a welcome addition. They had a long storied tradition in NAIA and won a lot of games, and they got a good young coach that's gonna, he has them playing hard, and boy, they really play hard defensively, and he's in his first year, and they're going to be a welcome addition to our conference, I think, as the years go.
When you look at this conference, it's usually a one-bid conference. We don't usually see a second bid coming out. It doesn't help that you're in the Midwest, where a ton of good teams certainly reside as well. So I'm assuming every year, no matter what the mentality is, you got to win the conference. Does that then translate a little bit into your out-of-conference schedule as well, that you want to at least get some momentum rolling?
Well, about 4 years ago, we had our first breakthrough within our conference where we won. Yeah. Went to the conference tournament and finished second in the regular season. And that year, I think we played Illinois Wesleyan, Augustana, Washington University. I can't remember the couple other ones, but I just know we played all three of those teams, and I think they were all in the top 10 in the country. And we took our lumps, and we try to maintain a good Division III schedule. Now we try to play a Division I or a Division II every year, a guarantee type game. I think we played Central Missouri, an awfully good Division II this year. But we do, the whole idea is to try to play Division III competition. We are a one-bid league, and we'll probably continue to be a one-bid league until some of the teams in our league start beating some of the powers that be. Yeah. And that's you're just not going to get that until you beat some of those. And our stress is always on making the conference tournament to have the opportunity to compete for the conference's at-large bid. Now, we'd like to win the regular season title. I think that strengthens our resume if you're fortunate enough to win the 2 games in the conference tournament to make it to the NCAA, so that you're not shipped to the number 1 seed in the region, for that first round game. But we're really stressed on making the conference tournament. We feel like playing some of the teams, a couple of the teams from the CCIW or some of the power conferences that are in the Midwest, help us get ready to play in our conference schedule. And the name of the game, like you said, though, is you got to get in the conference tournament. You got to win the conference tournament to make sure that you get into the NCAA tournament, because there's never been a second team at-large bid from the SLIAC. Nor will there be this year, probably. Yeah.
Of course, you guys are located just west of Springfield, kind of the southern part of the state, certainly closer to St. Louis than you are Chicago. The weather has been wacky this year. How much has that played a factor in life?
Well, we've had one game postponed that we had to make up with Westminster, and we got lucky yesterday. We were on the freeze line, and we were luckily we were playing Greenville, who is south of us. So when we talked, it was all rain and it was a little bit of ice here. We were able to still play the game, And like I was listening to the show before I got on here, and we're getting tight with days, and you hate to have 3 games in a week, and I think the teams that can, that's the thing, that's the problem that the weather provides. If you have to cancel games, then you're going to have to make them up, and it's going to really jam your week up, and you're going to have less prep time to get ready for your opponents. Not to mention the teams that are not as deep, that may only go 7 or 8 guys, are going to be taxed in that 3rd game of the week. And we're fortunate that we play 10 guys in our rotation, and our minutes are pretty distributed evenly. But still, we don't want to play 3 games in a week this late in the season.
Yeah.
Like for the weather to cooperate a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, I can imagine. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. It's nice to see MacMurry over its win total from the last few years, to be sure. Tying, actually, last year's win total at 14, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry. I can't even read my own handwriting. And looking forward to seeing how the team does. Again, Blackburn and Webster on the road here coming up this coming week. As always, we give our coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on. I've been a long-time fan, been a Division III lifer so far in my young career, and I really appreciate what you do and the attention that you draw to Division III hoops, and hope that people out there continue to give to the fundraiser that you got going on, and just really do appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate the kind words. Good luck the rest of the season. Looking forward to seeing what you guys do, and maybe see you in the NCAA tournament once again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, David.
All right, take care. Coach Todd Creel from MacMurry, again, 14-4 on the season. Big games coming up. They got a lot of games still left to play. Lots that can happen. As you said, they could go from 14-4 to 14-11 if they don't take care of business, so they will do their best to take care of business, as it were, coming up. Let's look at a couple scores from around Division III today, because a couple teams certainly playing that have impacts on many. I mean, top 25 was a bit of a shakeup this week. Amherst, for example, losing. I'm not sure if I've got the latest top 25 breakdown. I'm not pretty sure I haven't. But Wash U defeated Emory barely on the road, 70-66. Another game of significance, Carnegie Mellon defeating Brandeis 77-75. NYU losing to Case Western Reserve 80-73. Penn State Abingdon beating Wells. That's important because that sets up a two-way tie at second place in the NAAC. Chicago lost to Rochester. Coast Guard got past Wheaton, Mass. Those are the games we have scores on. We have other games that are ongoing. Keuka and Gallaudet are in overtime. Keuka leading with a few seconds left. No other game really jumping out at us. Women's basketball, WashU leads Emory, number 2 versus number 16, 37-24. Emory, I think, still has only that one loss. That was to NYU last weekend. I'm double-checking. No, I'm sorry, they have 2 losses. Emory lost to NYU, and then I forgot they lost to Brandeis 2 days later. Beat Chicago on Friday, trying to avoid their 3rd loss in 4 games are the Violets. They trail by 13. I'm sorry, NYU. I'm confused. Emory. Emory's trying to avoid the 3rd loss in 4. And they trail by 13 with early in the second half. Speaking of NYU, they are trailing to Case Western Reserve by a point early in the second half. NYU got that win over Emory, but then lost to Carnegie Mellon on Friday, so they are now down to 15-2. Certainly would like to avoid losing their 3rd in 5 games. Have a battle with Case Western Reserve. Of course, remember, NYU and Brandeis will play Case Western Reserve and Carnegie Mellon next week as well, though those games will be at home as this UAA does its flip. They always have that weekend where you play 2 opponents either on the road or at home and then flip it to the other way the very next weekend. Other scores, Middlebury women are defeating Hamilton 41-39 midway through the second half. And Rhodes is up on center 22-14, 6 minutes left to go in the first half. Other games jumping out. Brandeis defeated Carnegie Mellon in women's basketball. Nothing else really jumping out at me as overly significant. Ferrum did defeat William Peace, number 22 team in the country, won 81-66. So those are kind of your scores from today. Of course, we were on earlier than normal today due to the fact that we had the big game coming up tonight. I think last year we might have been on Monday. I can't really remember. Suffice it to say, we are going to be back on our normally scheduled time frame starting Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also be on air Sunday. Don't forget, 4 weeks from tonight, we'll have our Selections Sunday special. Not sure where we're going to be doing the show. There's a chance we may be down in ODAC land to do that show. Maybe a chance we'll be right back here in our studios. Don't forget about the Hoopsville fundraising project. If you contribute and donate enough, you might be able to have your favorite coach appear on the show or have us wear your alma mater shirt or whatever you would like us to take care of. Go to the Indiegogo website. We have links on our Twitter page. We also have links on our Facebook page. There's also a link on d3hoops.com for more information on that. We did meet our goal, but that doesn't mean there isn't more fundraising to do. 1 week left. It's kind of like public television. You might have a goal, but it doesn't mean you don't want to exceed it. So 1 week left in that campaign to get a chance to help us improve the show, help us travel with the show, etc. There's lots of good reasons to do it. We've never asked for money before. We're hoping you can help us in just a little bit in that scenario. I think the 12-hour show on Thursday was a success that I would seriously consider doing it every year. Maybe doing it as a campaign fundraiser as well on a smaller basis. We don't need the big influx like this, hopefully, but we'll see what happens in the next year. And so on and so forth. So please consider donating to the Hoopsville fundraising project. 1 week left. Any little bit, even if it's $10, can help us. At the same time, if you can't contribute, at least share the fundraiser. That means just as much to us as well. We want to thank our guests from Colby, Damian Strayhorn, from Eastern Mennonite women's basketball, Kevin Griffin, Morrisville State's Joe Smith, number 10 team in the country, UW-Whitewater's Pat Miller, Staten Island's Tony Petosa, and MacMurray's Todd Creel. We appreciate them taking the time to join us here on the show. Don't forget, if you missed any of this and you're watching live now, you can watch the archive at any time you would like. It's certainly available even when you're watching live. We'll be back on the air Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, when we primarily talk, I believe, East, Mid-Atlantic. We'll do a little bit of South Great Lakes and West regions. Then Sunday, primarily Northeast, Atlantic, South again, and Midwest Central regions. But doesn't mean we don't have a little crossover like we did with Whitewater today. If you have any guest ideas for us, email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also tweet us information at d3hoopsville or hashtag hoopsville. You can also Facebook us at facebook.com/hoopsville. Big story, I think, to watch out for this week. Not only some of the key matchups, with Whitewater taking on Stevens Point, as we have mentioned before. Forgive me here as my phone is talking to me. Don't forget, that's a big game on Wednesday, but the weather is becoming a factor. That's kind of why you heard my phone yelling at me. We've now got a winter storm warning for the Mid-Atlantic region for tomorrow. I think they're predicting, they're talking about 6 inches or more of snow. How does that affect Cabrini versus Wesley? There's more weather forecasted for especially New England and maybe some ice in the Mid-Atlantic on Wednesday. Could be another storm on the weekend. The Wednesday storm is going to be rolling through the Midwest and Great Lakes during the week. Another storm through the, again, tightening window of games, and weather has become a major factor this year, where in years past it hasn't been. I don't think it's been a major factor in the Mid-Atlantic since 2010. So how does this impact things? For example, do Cabrini and Wesley, number 2 v number 9, do they postpone the game and then never be able to make it up? Is it worth it to them to make up the game? You can argue both ways. Yes, it's worth it because it's 2 really good teams. It'll help their SOS. It's a good win or a good result for primary criteria. But do you make it up when you've got your conference to worry about too? And taking care of business in conference is so important. A lot of interesting decisions to make. If you're a Staten Island and you're taking on a non-conference foe, especially who might not be strong, it might not be imperative to you to make up the game. Yeah, one less game on your schedule for criteria, but it's not a game that's going to hurt you. Wesley and Cabrini, that's a pretty important game that can help them. So win or lose can help them. So it would be interesting to see what happens as we move forward. Of course, conference games are hugely important. So how does that affect things if you have a conference game postponed? Got a question if I talked about the Walton Moss injury. I mentioned it earlier in case anybody missed it. Cabrini's Walton Moss rolled his ankle last week, did not play in the Rosemont game. How does he recover? Will he be available for Monday? Did you not play him against Rosemont because it's a significant injury? Did you not play him against Rosemont because you just want to give him the ability to recover from maybe not so minor injury without re-injuring it or making it worse? Interesting scenario there. One of the best players in Division III, missing the game on Saturday. Again, injuring himself on Wednesday or Thursday. There's conflicting reports on exactly when. But Walton Moss, is he available for the Wesley game? That changes that game dramatically if he is not available against Wesley. I think Wesley becomes a serious favorite for that game. If they play it in the first place. Again, back to the weather and the scenario there. Again, don't forget about the Hoopsville fundraising project, still continuing on. We are above our goal, but we'd like to raise as much as possible. We want to thank everybody who contributed, and I know there are more who said they will contribute, and we're looking forward to those donations when they become available. Lots to talk about between now and Thursday. Stay with D3Hoops.com. Of course, follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or at D3Hoops. Of course, the hashtag Hoopsville or D3H is your Twitter family of connections. Lots to figure out. Interesting. Apparently right now, Walton Moss injury update. Not taking part in the physical portion of practice, but he's going through the walkthrough. Certainly making sure he doesn't injure himself more or letting him recover as best as possible. You got to think Cabrini needs Walton Moss for that game on Wesley. And again, I point out, this is weather permitting. But I think Walton Moss has to play, if available, against Wesley. You can't sit him out. This is a risk. I don't know how bad the injury is, but let's say the injury is marginal. You can't sit him out. You can sit him out against Rosemont and hope the team wins, and they did. They came from double-digit down to win by 1. But you can't sit him out against Wesley. If the injury is significant, I think you have to sit him out against Wesley, because if he re-injures it or does more damage, you might lose him for the season. Some tricky questions and answers there in Cabrini land to figure out what they're going to do there with Walton Moss. It'll be fascinating to watch. Big game coming up on Monday. There are a lot of big games. Whitewater versus Stevens Point is later this week. Lots of big games in Division III. Stay tuned to D3 Hoops and D3 Hoopsville for more on that. We're going to not take a break. We're going to go off the air here. Seems rather early for me to do so, but we will do so here. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. We appreciate it. We will be back on the air Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, our normally scheduled time. And we will talk more Division III basketball. Again, 4 weeks from tonight, we're going to be talking about who's definitely in the NCAA tournament and who may be out of the NCAA tournament as we wait for the brackets to be announced 4 weeks from tomorrow. We'll be talking about who's definitely in, and who's going where in the NCAA tournament. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all your support. Appreciate your support on Thursday again. Want to thank all of our guests on Thursday, and of course today's guests as well. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. See you back here Thursday night. Goodbye, everybody.